Here's a little taste of how loaded the slate is for Week 5 of the 2022 college football season. Number 9, Oklahoma State at number 16, Baylor might not even be one of the 5 most intriguing games. And you know that is a capital H huge game. The winner will become the top candidate to at least reach the Big 12 championship game. And if Oklahoma State pulls off the road win, it could catapult into the top 5 next week. That said, there are 3 other top 20 showdowns: Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and NC State, Clemson. A Friday night clash, a Pac-12 undefeateds with the potential to be awesome: Washington, UCLA. Number 4, Michigan, trying to exorcise demons in Iowa City. And number 18, Oklahoma, going to TCU and trying to avoid getting eliminated from the college football playoff conversation before it even really begins. Throw in number 22, Wake Forest, at number 23, Florida State, a sneaky great Oregon State-Utah game, a handful of other pivotal 3-1 versus 3-1 battles: Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, LSU, Auburn, and of course Kansas looking to improve to 5-0. And we've got one heck of a weekend for getting cozy on the old couch. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Week 5 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher and Michael Bullock. We actually have a game in progress right now. It's number 19, BYU at home against the Aggies of Utah State on ESPN. 6:12 to go in the third, 30-20 BYU, but they have a red zone alert, so that could change. So keep an eye on, well, actually, they did score a touchdown, so it's 31-20. Okay, so it's 31-20 BYU, 4:15 to go in the third. All right, let's get to the remaining games. We got 18 of them, so let's dive right on in, gentlemen. Tomorrow night, with a 10:30 kickoff on ESPN, rare Friday night game for us to get into, but a good one here. The number 15 Washington Huskies on the road against the UCLA Bruins from the legendary Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. Roy Philpott, Andre Ware, and Paul Carcaterra on the call. Washington opening up as a 3-point favorite. So there might have been a handful of intriguing Thursday and Friday games thus far, but this might be the first must-watch non-Saturday game of the season. UCLA is out to a 4-0 start for the first time since 2015. But is it legitimate? The Bruins' schedule has been extremely easy, and they needed a last-second field goal to avoid a home loss to South Alabama in Week 3. Their defense will be put to the test by Michael Penix Jr., who is shockingly still being disrespected by Heisman oddsmakers. The Indiana transfer has thrown for at least 300 yards and multiple touchdowns in each of Washington's games, having all sorts of fun under first-year Huskies head coach Kalen DeBoer. Penix makes it 5 straight 300-yard games, and everyone suddenly realizes there's a good chance Washington could carry a 9-0 record into Eugene, Oregon in mid-November. I'm going with Washington to win this, but if UCLA were to win, I would not at all be surprised. So Washington wins it. My final score, 34-28. MF, not often we get Friday games here, but boy howdy, we got a good one here. Washington, UCLA, battle of the unbeatens in a venue that's near and dear to your heart, the legendary Rose Bowl.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about it. A great matchup to start off. But I got to go with Washington as well. I think Washington's going to win the game. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup, to say the very least. This could go a number of ways, but I think Washington definitely should be the favorite. So I think Washington will win. Like you said, UCLA hasn't really been tested up to this point. So we'll see how it plays out. Nothing more to say. Michael Bullock is yours.
Bullock, are you there? Huh. I don't know what happened to Bullock. I don't know if he stepped away or if he forgot to. Okay, there he is. All right, Bullock. Number 15, Washington against UCLA tomorrow night.
Yeah, like you said, this is a true uh, Friday night matchup that's intriguing, especially in the Pac-12. I mean, this is a tough one here. I mean, I think this is really going to test UCLA to see if their pretty good start is true. So it's a tough one here, but I'm gonna go with Washington to win this one. But I would not be surprised if UCLA somehow pulls off the upset. So give me Washington to win this one. So let's move on, Florio.
And now we go into the Saturday slate of games, and this first one it's only fitting that good old MF Michael Fletcher leads off on it, because it's not only his team, but it's also Michael Bullock's team as well. The number 4 Michigan Wolverines on the road against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Big noon Saturday on Fox. You already know who works that as always. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, and the All-American girl Jenny Taft. Michigan opening up as a 10.5-point favorite. So, MF, I'll say it like this for Michigan. First 3 games, you had cupcakes. But boy, howdy. You got to put, even though you won, you most assuredly have to put some respect on Maryland's name after they gave you one hell of a try. But now, you got to go into Des Moines, Iowa, Kinnick Stadium.
And a place that we have not played very well in the past.
Yikes.
So, yeah, this is definitely a danger game. This is definitely a dangerous game. And to keep our heads on a swivel on this one. Michigan definitely is the favorite, as you could tell. But the thing is that when you got Blake Corum and you got JJ McCartney, and the way that they've been playing, I just feel like this is one of those games that you kind of feel like maybe this is where Michigan really kind of rides themselves. Look, they needed a test, and they went up against a really good team, a really good Maryland team that was flying under the radar, and nobody really knew about them. Trust me, Big Ten knows about them now, especially after that game. And another team that's been flying under the radar is Iowa. Even though, yes, they did lose their first game, they got their hearts broken by Penn State earlier in the year. So there's that uncertainty about how this is going to play out. At the end of the day, this could go a number of ways here, but, relatively speaking, I got to say, I think Michigan's going to win. It will be closer than 10. I think this could be like maybe a 3, 4, 7-point margin, but it's definitely going to be a single digits. This game is very dangerous because Iowa's defense is really good, but if Michigan can continue running the way that they've been playing, especially trying to drive it, I think they'll get the job done. I do believe Michigan will win it. So I got nothing more to add. Michael Bullock, this is going to be a tough game, but I do believe Michigan will win it. So it's yours.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a tough game for Michigan. I mean, yes, it's a 10.5. They're 10.5 point favorites, but yeah, I mean, you're going into Iowa at Kinnick Stadium to face the Hawkeyes. That's got a good defense, so they could definitely give this. This Michigan team fits, and I see this being more of a single digit game. That's the way I see it. So, yeah, I mean, this, like you said, this could be a trap game, but I was going to definitely hang around for most of the game, and then I think you'll see Michigan pull away at the end. So, I got Michigan winning this one, so it's yours, Florio.
Dating back to 2009, Iowa has won 4 consecutive home games against Michigan. Granted, only one came with Jim Harbaugh coaching the Wolverines, but that was a colossal one, with the Hawkeyes knocking off then number 2 Michigan 14-13 in 2016. As was the case heading into that game, Iowa is a dumpster fire on offense, while Michigan comes in looking like a runaway freight train. That 2016 Wolverine team averaged 48 points a game. This year's team, 50. And if Iowa is going to continue its seemingly annual tradition of knocking off a ranked opponent at Kinnick Stadium, 7 such wins in the last 6 years, it's now or never. I'm going with quote unquote never though. Michigan runs the ball too well to get shut down, and J.J. McCarthy isn't going to help Iowa's cause by throwing pick sixes. I think it'll be close early, but I think Michigan will pull away in the second half. So I'm going to say Michigan wins this one a little more comfortably than you guys have it. I'm going to say 27-10 Michigan knocks off Iowa. So not much more to say on that. Move on to our next high noon game, the second of 5 that we're going to be getting into. And Michael Bullock will be starting off, and we got another good one here. I told you this was a loaded slate. Here you go. The number 7 Kentucky Wildcats on the road against the number 14 Ole Miss Rebels, Vaught Hemingway Stadium, Oxford, Mississippi, on ESPN, with Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, Molly McGrath, and Todd McShay. Todd McShay will be in attendance for that one. And Ole Miss actually opening up as a 7-point favorite. So Michael Bullock, huge game in the SEC here. Number 7 Kentucky and number 14 Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, this is a big game in the SEC, and yeah, I mean, Kentucky ranked number 7 and Ole Miss ranked number 14, but Ole Miss definitely comes in as the favorite. So this is a tough one for me to call here. I mean, this is one that I think that can go either way. Oh man, this is tough. So, and Ole Miss, they're playing at home, so you know what? I'm gonna call for the upset here. I'm going with Ole Miss to upset number 7 Kentucky, and I think this is gonna be. I'm gonna say 24-20 is gonna be my final score on this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah, just like Oklahoma State Baylor, here we have another unstoppable force versus immovable object debate. Though in this case, the unstoppable force has home field advantage. Ole Miss averaging 5.8 yards a carry, about 281 rushing yards a game, and about 4 rushing touchdowns a game. Quinshawn Judkins and Zach Evans have been the stars. Quarterback Jackson Dart has plenty of mobility as well. And the Rebels have yet to really unleash Ulysses Bentley IV, who had a good run with SMU over the previous 2 seasons. And while the Kentucky defense isn't quite putting up James Madison numbers, 84 yards allowed on 88 carries, the Wildcats have been solid against the run, holding each of their first 4 opponents under 140 yards and allowing only 3 touchdowns. Does Kentucky have the necessary offensive firepower to get this road W, though? Will Levis has thrown it well, averaging nearly 300 passing yards a game, but the Wildcats have had a world of trouble trying to establish the run, and the Rebels' defense has been respectable against the pass. I'm going to go with Ole Miss doing enough on the ground in what figures to be a lower scoring game than the 42-41 overtime showdown in 2020. I'm with you, Bullock. I got Ole Miss winning this one as well. I've got it a little higher scoring than you do. I got Ole Miss winning 27-23. Ole Miss pulls the upset over Kentucky. But as I always say, if Kentucky wins, I would not at all be surprised. I wouldn't, because that's how great they've been this year. But there is no doubt about this one. So MF, number 7 Kentucky, number 14 Ole Miss. Big game in the SEC. And Bullock and I are going with the upset. Are you going to make it unanimous?
I could see it. I can definitely see the upset. I mean, Kentucky, when it comes to them, have they really been tested up to this point? And they had a near scare against Northern Illinois, where I believe Ole Miss had a scare with Tulsa. But the thing is that I kind of feel like it could go either way. But I got to go with you guys here. I'm gonna go with Ole Miss. I do agree. I think they're due for a major upset. So I got Ole Miss winning. There's really nothing more to add. And Anthony, it's yours.
All right. Just want to, because I'm on a stadium that I'm not sure of, but I got it now. So I just want to make sure I had the correct stadium for the next one. All right, so trying to find it in my. All right, there we are. All right, ready to go for our next noon game here, as it will be the now number 18 Oklahoma Sooners on the road against the TCU Horned Frogs at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, on ABC, with Mark Jones, Robert Griffin III, and Quint Kessenich. Oklahoma opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. And let's not forget, gentlemen, Oklahoma getting embarrassed at home by Kansas State. And we'll get into them in a little while. Dating back to the beginning of 2015, Oklahoma has lost consecutive games only once. But when it did happen early in the 2020 season, the first loss came at home against unranked Kansas State. The Sooners were ranked 18th for the second loss, which came on the road against an unranked but respectable conference foe in Iowa State. Will lightning strike twice, or will the Oklahoma defense bounce back from last week's dud to slow down an offense that trails only Ohio State in yards per play? TCU quarterback Max Duggan did throw for 346 yards and 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma last year, but it was nowhere near enough in a 52-31 Sooners win. Perhaps that will be the history that repeats itself, because Oklahoma certainly didn't struggle to move the ball in that loss to the Wildcats. Nor did SMU have much trouble with TCU's defense last weekend. So I'm going to take a chance here, and I'm going to go with Oklahoma to win. Even though I believe they are on upset alert here, I'm going to say Oklahoma will. I think it'll be close for 3 quarters, but then I think Oklahoma will pull away in the fourth with a late score. So I'm going to say 45-34. Oklahoma outlasts TCU, gets back on the winning track. So there isn't much more to say. MF, Oklahoma getting embarrassed at home by Kansas State last week, and it doesn't get any easier. Now you got to go on the road against TCU.
Yeah, and the thing is, TCU is definitely feeling like they're thinking fresh meat here. They're thinking this is their moment, this is their time, and they could actually think about they're thinking about trying to pull the upset. They saw what happened last week, so they're feeling like they could do it here. I just don't believe that. I think Oklahoma will bounce back. I think you hardly ever see Oklahoma losing 2 games in a row. That's very, very, very rare in this day and age. So for me, I think Oklahoma will bounce back. They'll get the victory here. There's really nothing more to say. And Michael Bullock, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any easier for Oklahoma. I mean, especially after getting embarrassed by Kansas State, and now you got to go on the road against a team like TCU. It certainly ain't going to be easy, and this is definitely going to be a high-scoring affair, and I think Oklahoma will definitely bounce back and win this one. I'm going to go Oklahoma wins it. I'm going to say I'll go with that 45-34 score as well. So there's nothing more to say. Let's move on.
All right. So with that, we move on to our next matchup. Yet another high noon matchup. As well, gentlemen, look who's back in the AP poll for the first time in a little bit. The now number 21 Minnesota Golden Gophers, and they're going to be at home at Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, hosting the Purdue Boilermakers. ESPN2 is where you can find this game. It'll be with Anish Shroff, Brock Osweiler, and Taylor McGregor. And Minnesota opening up as a 12.5-point favorite. MF, here you go. Another Big Ten team for you in the poll, Minnesota. Boy, howdy, did you see what they did against Michigan State and East Lansing? Whoa.
Yeah, that was impressive. That caught a lot of people by surprise. Nobody saw that one coming, and that was a dominating performance. And the thing is that Purdue is definitely a team that has been on the rocks. They haven't really played really well this season, even though 2-2. But the first couple of games, it's been pretty shaky. They did lose to Syracuse out of nowhere, almost lost to Florida Atlantic last week, and now you're going up against basically one of the better teams in the Big Ten with Minnesota. I think Minnesota wins it yet again. I think they remain undefeated. So give me Minnesota to win it. I got nothing more to add, and Michael Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see them back in the top 25 poll. So now can they build on it? We'll have to wait and see on it. But I'm with you, Fletch. I got Minnesota winning this one as well. So there's really nothing more to say. So it's yours, Florio.
Here's your Tony fun fact of the night. Minnesota ranks third in the nation in total offense, 543 yards a game, and first in total defense, 188 yards allowed a game. Sure, its first 3 games were laughably weak, but the Golden Gophers also went on the road and destroyed Michigan State last week. They are one of 2 teams, along with mighty Alabama, that has both more rushing yards and more passing yards than total yards allowed. And Purdue darn near messed around and lost the home game to Florida Atlantic last Saturday. Not exactly a ringing endorsement for upset potential. Minnesota has also won 8 of the last 9 in this Big Ten West rivalry. I'm with you guys. I got Minnesota winning as well. My final score, 38-21. Minnesota keeps their winning ways going over Purdue. So we got one more high noon matchup to address. And we're going to be addressing, one of the big talks of last week. Another one of the big winners of last week, as they're back in the polls for the first time in a while as well. The now number 25 Kansas State Wildcats at home at Bill Snyder Family Stadium in Manhattan, Kansas. And they're going to be hosting the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And this game will be over on ESPN+. And on the call for that will be Mark Neely, Ryan Leaf, and Shane Sparks. And Kansas State opening up as a 7.5-point favorite. So, Michael Bullock, can Kansas State keep the momentum going after that huge win in Oklahoma last week?
And like you said, I mean, Kansas State, they go into this matchup with a lot of momentum against, especially after a big win over Oklahoma. And after what I saw for them, you know what I'm going to say? I think they'll get the job done. I see them continuing this momentum. So, yeah, I got Kansas State winning this one. So it's yours, Florio.
Scoring 10 points at home in a loss to Tulane, and then dropping 41 points on Oklahoma in Norman was one heck of a 7-day swing for the Wildcats. But Adrian Martinez has been good for at least one Heisman Trophy caliber performance in each season of his 5-year college career. And his game against the Sooners was unquestionably his best yet. Can he string together back-to-back solid showings, though? Against a Texas Tech defense that has not been anything special, allowing 30.3 points a game against FBS opponents. Kansas State gets the win in Manhattan, but Deuce Vaughn, 5 career touchdowns in 2 games against Texas Tech, and the defense will pave the way. Close game, but I think Kansas State will eke it out. Kansas State wins it 31-24. MF, does K-State keep it going after that monumental win in Norman?
I say yes. I do believe that they will turn it up and they will get that monumental victory. I do believe that they are really good. K-State's for real, folks. And I think it's time that we put respect on their name, especially after what happened. They've looked really good lately. And whenever you win a game like Oklahoma, you really open the eyebrows of everybody in the building. And the way they did it, that's the kicker. It's the way they won the game is the biggest factor. So for me, no doubt about it, I do believe they'll get it back, and there's really nothing more to add. So Anthony, they'll keep that hot streak going. So it's yours.
All right, very good. We move on now to a rare 2 o'clock kickoff here, and it features the number 12 Utah Utes back at home at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City, Utah, hosting the Beavers of Oregon State over on the Pac-12 network with Yogi Roth and Ted Robinson. Utah opening up as a 10-point favorite. Though it lost, Oregon State was easily the more impressive team in its 17-14 game against USC. The Beavers did an incredible job on defense against what previously looked like an unstoppable passing game. In fact, Oregon State has allowed just 2 passing touchdowns while intercepting 6 tosses. That could be a difference maker against an offense that will need to adjust without star tight end Brant Kuithe, who suffered a season-ending leg injury against Arizona State last week. Utah does still have its Cameron Rising to Dalton Kincaid connection intact, though, as well as an excellent rushing game and a defense that has been top-notch, aside from having no answer for Anthony Richardson's mobility in the Week 1 loss at Florida. Oregon State quarterback Chance Nolan is at least a bit of a rushing threat, but he's no Richardson. He also threw 4 interceptions against USC, so I'll go with Utah getting revenge for last year's loss in Corvallis. This should be a sneaky great game, though, even with its unusual start time. I say Utah pulls it out, but Oregon State's going to give them fits, just like they gave SC fits. Utah survives 28-23, but MF, boy howdy, Oregon State, oh, did they give USC a hell of a try.
Yeah, they gave them a heck of a try, and they almost pulled off a major upset there. But, I agree. I gotta give credit where credit's due. I do believe that Utah should be able to win the game as well. And yeah, it is an interesting start time because 2 o'clock on the East, that's 11 a.m. for Utah. So they're playing in about, I want to say around 11 or 12 Utah time. So yeah, it's a little interesting of a start time for them, but really nothing more to say. And yeah, I got Utah winning, and Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, like you said, this is an interesting start time for, especially since they are in Utah. But yeah, I like what I've seen from Utah up to this point, and I expect their momentum to continue to go. So I got the Utah Utes winning this one as well. So let's move on to the next game.
Yes, sir. And earlier we had 5 high noon games. We got 5 3:30 games. So let's dive on in, gentlemen. And there's no better place to start it than with our favorite, one of our favorites, the SEC on CBS. The number 2 Alabama Crimson Tide on the road against the now number 20 Arkansas Razorbacks at Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, Arkansas. The SEC on CBS, you know who works that, as always, Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, and Jenny Dell. Bama opening up as a 17-point favorite. Oh, MF, oh, man. You gotta feel for Arkansas. I mean, they lose to A&M in Jerry World. I mean, that wasn't bad enough. Now you gotta you're going back home, and you got Bama waiting for you.
Yeah,
Next victim.
it's a rough matchup. It's rough. It's not good. You can openly admit that that's probably looking like a bad situation, maybe even worse. But you got to play the games, and you got to try to do what you can do. Even though I do believe Bama will handle their business and they'll win this one pretty handily. I think Arkansas will make it interesting, at least for a half. I don't think they're gonna go out and get punked out like that. I do believe that they'll play their hearts out. They'll play really good. There's really nothing more to say here. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel this game's going to go. I have Alabama winning. So, Michael Bullock, I give it to you.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I got a feel for Arkansas as well. I mean, to lose the way they did against Texas A&M and Jerry World, and now you got to go up against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oh, that's not good. But I think they'll play well for a little bit, but I just think in the end, it's just too much when it comes to Alabama here. So, yeah, Alabama should be able to handle their business here. So it's yours, Florio.
You know what we always like to say, next victim. It's hard to remember the last time a team's season swung so heavily on a single play as the moment last week when Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson fumbled at the goal line and Texas A&M ran it back for 6. The Hogs were about to take a 13-point lead in a likely win at a neutral site against a ranked opponent. They would have entered this home game against Alabama as an undefeated top 10 team with a legitimate chance at victory. Instead, they lost to the Aggies. They're probably going to get smoked by Alabama in their subsequent 3 consecutive road games against Mississippi State, BYU, and Auburn could leave us wondering if the Razorbacks will even become bowl eligible. Let's not put the let's not put the cart before the hog though. Arkansas does have a potent rushing game, and they did put up 35 points in a relatively close call against Alabama last November. But as was the case in that game, Arkansas will have no answer for Bryce Young. We probably won't be treated to a repeat of that 559-yard, 5-touchdown extravaganza, but this Razorback secondary is pretty bad. Young went for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns in last week's dismantling of Vanderbilt. He could do the same in Fayetteville. Easy win for Bama, 41-16. Alabama all over Arkansas. So next victim, that shtick we always do. So not much more to say. Let's continue on here. Next 3:30 matchup features the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes once again at home at Ohio Stadium in the Horseshoe, as they'll be hosting the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers over on the Big Ten Network. And on the call for that one will be Brandon Gaudin, Joshua Perry, and Rick Pizzo. Ohio State opening up as a 39.5-point favorite.
Ouch.
Yeah, who do you like in this one, Bullock?
Yeah, when a team is a 39-point favorite, yeah, I think that you know where you gotta go with this. It's Ohio State all day, and they're just gonna slaughter Rutgers here. So, you want to talk about next victim, Florio? I mean, for Ohio State, I mean this is taking next victim to a whole nother level. So, yeah, there's really nothing more for me to say. So, it's yours, Florio.
Bullock, in the past 8 seasons against Rutgers, Ohio State is 8-0 with a scoring margin of 428-88. The closest game was a 49-27 Buckeyes win in 2020, and even that was 42-9 at the end of the third quarter. And unfortunately for Rutgers, the Ohio State offense looks better than usual, even with Jackson Smith and Jigba unable to make an impact since his hamstring injury early in week 1 against Notre Dame. One of these years, Rutgers will at least put up a fight against Ohio State, but it won't be this year. Easy win for Ohio State, 45-10. I got Ohio State all over Rutgers. MF, unanimous?
Yeah, unanimous. I gotta go Ohio State. I just don't see how it's gonna hang on that one. So nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
All right, MF. Let's see. All right. Just want to make sure I have the right order here. All right, here we go. Staying in the Big Ten for our next game, it features the number 11, the now number 11 Penn State Nittany Lions at home at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, hosting the Wildcats of Northwestern over on ESPN, with Bob Wischusen, MF's boy Dan Orlovsky, and Chris Budden. Penn State opening up as a 25-point favorite. And yeah, you know where this one's going. Northwestern can't stop the run. Duke and Miami of Ohio each eclipsed 200 rushing yards in road wins over the Wildcats. And Penn State is considerably better on the ground than either of those teams. Moreover, Northwestern can't stop giving the ball away. It has already lost 7 fumbles, tied for most in the nation, and now has to deal with a defense that ranks 4th in the nation in turnover margin at +8. And while I'm still nowhere near convinced that Penn State is the 11th best team in the country, it sure seems safe to assume it'll win this one in a landslide. Easy win for Penn State, 45-17, Penn State all over Northwestern. MF, Penn.
I got to go with Penn State. I don't think there's really much for you to add there as well. I mean, you talked about the matchup and how the way that this game's going to play out. I think Penn State's going to win it, so nothing more to say. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is a Penn State victory all the way. I mean, yeah, they should be able to handle their business with Northwestern here. So there's really nothing more to add. So let's move on to our next game.
And that next game will feature. Oh, here we go. Here you go, boys. A little out of order, but that's all right. The number 9 Oklahoma State Cowboys squaring off against the number 16 Baylor Bears from McLean Stadium in Waco, Texas. This one over on Fox, and on the call for that one will be Jason Benetti and Brock Heward. Baylor opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. MF, Oklahoma State and Baylor. This is it. This is another one of the many big ones of the week here. Huge game in the Big 12 for both teams. Rematch of an amazing Big 12 championship game last December.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is going to be a very good matchup. It could be down to the wire at like many people thought it was going to be, but who knows how it's going to play. But at the end of the day, it's going to be it can go a number of ways. However, I got to go with Baylor. I think they're the hot team, especially at home. Give me the Baylor Bears to shock and win. So I got really nothing more to say. Michael Bullock, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I think this could be a really. I mean, this is a game that could be a high-scoring affair, which I think I could see. I mean, with the way both of these teams are, but I mean, if this game was at Oklahoma State, I'd easily go with the Cowboys. But this game is in Waco, Texas, the home of the Baylor Bears, and I'm with Fletch here. I'm calling for the upset as well. I gotta go with the Baylor Bears to pull off the upset, but if Oklahoma State wins, I would not be surprised. So it's yours, Florio.
What a massive showdown between what are now the 2 highest ranked teams in the Big 12. Oklahoma State has been relentless on offense, leading the nation in scoring with just north of 52 points a game. But are the Cowboys actually great with the ball? Or did they just capitalize on an early schedule consisting of home games against Central Michigan, Arizona State, and Arkansas Pine Bluff? We're about to find out because the Baylor front 7 is no joke. The Bears have yet to allow an opponent to rush for 90 yards, and they stifled both BYU and Iowa State on the road. Granted, they lost in double overtime against the Cougars, but it certainly wasn't because of poor defense. In each of the last 2 meetings, this has been a low-scoring affair. Oklahoma State won 24-14 last October, and then Baylor won 21-16 last December in the Big 12 Championship in Jerry World. And if that trend continues, I like Baylor's chances at home. If the total creeps into the 60s, though, that feels like a big advantage for the Pokes. But I'm going to go with Baylor as well. Lower scoring than you guys think. 24-21, I got Baylor once again defeating Oklahoma State. So, small discrepancy there. This should have been the Northwestern Penn State, but that's all right. It's one little botch there, but we're good for the rest of the way because now we move on to our final 3:30 game. And this is, I would consider this a bit of an MF special because this is a good old-fashioned ACC throwdown here. The number 22 Wake Forest Demon Deacons on the road against the number 23 Florida State Seminoles, they're back in the polls for the first time in some time as well. Theme of the week so far. Doak Campbell Stadium at Bobby Bowden Field in Tallahassee, Florida. Game on ABC. Dave Patch, Dusty Dvoracek, and Tom Luginbill on the call for that one. Florida State opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. Michael Bullock, I mean, what can I say? I mean, boy, Wake Forest. Oh, man, your hearts go out for them because they gave Clemson a big-time try. But unfortunately, they came up just a little short, and now they got to go up against Florida State in Florida State, and Florida State's back in the polls for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, like you said, first time in quite a long time that that Florida State is in the top 25. I mean, you think of the good old days of Florida State under, of course, the legendary Bobby Bowden when this team was in the top 25 so many times. So good to see them back there, and yeah, you got to feel for Wake Forest. I mean, they gave Clemson one heck of an effort against Clemson, but it just wasn't enough. So, and now you got to go to Doak Campbell Stadium to deal with a Florida State Seminoles team that's back in the top 25. Man, this is a tough one for me to call. I mean, you want to see Wake Forest bounce back after a tough loss here, but Florida State, there's something about them that, especially since they are playing at home, I think they're going to pull it out here. So give me the Florida State Seminoles to win this one. So it's yours, Florida.
Yeah, sleeper game of the week, no question about it. Get ready to find out in a hurry if the Noles are for real. After narrowly beating LSU and Louisville during this 4-0 start, they are about to run into number 22 Wake Forest, number 10 North Carolina State, and number 5 Clemson in 3 consecutive weeks. At least this one is at home, and at least it comes against a team that is simply not good on defense. In the last 2 weeks against Liberty and Clemson, Wake Forest has allowed 87 points and 994 yards. Yikes. Even another big day by quarterback Sam Hartman might not be enough to save the Demon Deacons. Bullock, I'm with you. I got Florida State winning this one as well. High-scoring affair. I say Florida State pulls it out. 38-35. Florida State knocks off Wake Forest. So, MF, are the Noles for real?
I think they are. I think they definitely have a chance to prove that they are for real. I kind of feel like this was a week that everything could go their way. Florida State definitely has a chance to win this game, and I think that they will. We're going to have to wait and see how it plays out, but Florida State wins, and yeah, let's move on.
All right, and here's another rare kickoff. We have a 4 o'clock kickoff here, and just bear with me for a moment as I track down the name of this one. All right, got it. Starkville, right? Yes. All right, so we have now a rare 4 o'clock kickoff, and it features the number 17 Texas A&M Aggies on the road against the Mississippi State Bulldogs at Davis Wade Stadium in Starkville, Mississippi. This game can be found over on the SEC Network. And on the call for that one, it will be Taylor Zarzar, Matt Stinchcomb, and Alyssa Lang. Mississippi State actually opening up as a 4-point favorite, guys. So, something to think about there. Texas A&M wide receiver Aeneas Smith is out for the season with a serious leg injury he suffered last week against Arkansas. Despite missing a significant chunk of that game, Smith has more than twice as many receiving yards as the next closest Aggie. So it's a brutal loss for an offense that's averaging only 21.2 points a game as it is. It does still have a phenomenal running back in Devin Achaney, but even he is not an every down workhorse. We'll see what this offense can muster the rest of the season, but Mississippi State has both a solid defense and a Mike Leach offense that racked up more than 400 passing yards en route to a win in College Station last season. Texas A&M is paying Jimbo Fisher big bucks to win games like these, but I got to go with the Bulldogs in Starkville. I think Mississippi State can pull the upset here, especially with Smith out for the year. That could come back and haunt them. I'm going to take a chance and call for the upset here. I'm going to say Mississippi State upsets Texas A&M 24-17. So with that being said, MF, that Aeneas Smith injury, that's going to be a big difference for A&M the rest of the way.
It will definitely be a difference for A&M the rest of the way. And you can evenly say that, yeah, you can make an argument that Mississippi State should win the game. And, you went with it. I believe they can definitely win it. So, yeah, I'll call for the upset as well. I got Mississippi State winning it as well. So there's really nothing more to add here, Anthony. Mike Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I'm with you guys as well. I mean, I got to go with Mississippi State as well. I mean, there's just something about them. I think that they could definitely beat this Texas A&M team. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big win for them. So give me Mississippi State to win this one. And Florio, before we move on to the next game, it's a final on Thursday Night Football. The Cincinnati Bengals have defeated the Miami Dolphins 27-15, and no surprise here, but obviously the big story. Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, he was taken to the hospital with some serious head and neck injuries, but the good news I heard, and this is what I heard moments ago, he is expected to be discharged from the hospital tonight. So all I can say is thank goodness.
Yes.
I mean, when I saw him get carted up with the way his fingers were curled up, I knew it wasn't good. But just to hear him that he's going to get discharged tonight, as you would say, Florio, praise the Lord.
Yes, praise the Lord indeed. And, Bullock and I may not be Dolphin fans like MF, but at the same time, these are human beings. These are real men. And even though we like to have fun at times, I mean, it's still, there are times when it can be actually real. And that was very real indeed. And, yeah, like Bullock said, Cincinnati wins 27-15. We'll recap it Saturday night. And, and if he's being discharged tonight, who knows? Maybe he could be back for week number 5 for the Miami Dolphins when they go on the road against the New York Jets in the Meadowlands. So, but I know MF and all of us will have something to say about that Saturday. But for right now, let's get back to this. We got a couple of 7:30. We're now into the prime time games now, guys. A couple of 7:30 kickoffs, only 2. First, we have the number 1 team in all the land, the reigning, defending college football playoff national champion, Maine and Georgia Bulldogs on the road against the Missouri Tigers at Farrat Field in Columbia, Missouri. This game will be over on the SEC Network, and working that game will be Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelik. Georgia opening up as a 29-point favorite. So I believe this one goes to MF. So MF, Maine and Georgia on the road against Missouri. I'm sure it's got to be another easy win for the champs. MF, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. When it comes to this game, look, this is one of those big matchups. There's no doubt about it. We're talking about, no, it's Georgia. I mean, Georgia should win this one. This should be an easy game for them. There's really not much for us to talk about here. Georgia will dominate. They'll blow them out. And you know what? We always talk about how Alabama has a next victim mentality. I think we should start putting Georgia as a next victim mentality because the way they've been playing, they're on a mission. They're the number one team in all the land. They're the reigning national champions, and they're gonna prove it again here tonight. So nothing more to say. So Florio, Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia basically should have no problem winning this one. I mean, yeah, like you said, maybe we have to start putting the next victim into uh, respect. I mean, we need to put the next victim thing when it comes to Georgia. So, yeah, so I got Georgia winning this one. And of course, quick update, of course, we said we were wondering if he was going to travel, Tua was going to travel with the team. I just heard now that he's willing to travel back with the team.
Well, that's even more better news. So, all right. Never take a road game in conference play for granted, but Georgia has won 8 consecutive games in this SEC East rivalry, in each of the past 5 by at least 2 touchdowns. And the Bulldogs' defense has something to prove after shockingly allowing 22 points in last week's win over Kent State. Georgia had held 20 of its previous 21 opponents to 21 points or fewer, including 4 shutouts, so that it gave up anything to the Golden Flashes, who lost 33-3 at Oklahoma, was surprising. The Dogs should have a field day against an offense that was held to 12 and 14 points in losses to Kansas State and Auburn. Easy win for Georgia, 38-6. Georgia all over Missouri. And now, gentlemen, the game of the week, the big one. The big game in the ACC. The number 5 Clemson Tigers at home at Memorial Stadium in Death Valley in Clemson, South Carolina, hosting the number 10 North Carolina State Wolfpack. The ABC Saturday night game of the week. You already know who's working this one. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, and Holly Rowe. Clemson opening up as a 7-point favorite. Michael Bullock, you lead off on the game of the week. Number 10 NC State at number 5 Clemson. ABC Saturday night game of the week with Chris and Herbie.
Yeah, this is gonna be a big one here. I mean, in the ACC. I mean, if you think Clemson is gonna have no problem here, I think you're sadly mistaken. I mean, NC State, with the way they've been playing, I think they could definitely give Clemson some fits here. And man, it's going to be so freaking good. And I'm going to go with Clemson to win this one, but I would not be surprised if NC State pulls off the upset here. So it's yours, Florio.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I have no clue what to expect in this gigantic ACC clash. Since getting a week 1 scare from East Carolina, North Carolina State has looked as solid on defense as we expected before the season began, allowing 3 touchdowns over its last 3 games. However, 2 of those 3 games were against Charleston Southern and UConn, and the Wolfpack did allow 299 passing yards against Texas Tech. So has NC State actually turned the corner enough to slow down an offense that has been potent over the last 2 weeks? Or will DJ Uiagalelei and company put up at least 35 points for the 5th straight week in a victory that pushes them from favorites to overwhelming favorites to win the ACC? Clemson has won 8 consecutive home games in this rivalry, but half of those were decided by a single possession. Considering this is probably the best Wolfpack team in at least 2 decades, I assume it'll be another one of those nail-biters. But with Clemson being at home, I have to go with Clemson in this one. Close game, low-scoring game. I'm going to say 23-20. Clemson survives NC State and takes one step closer to taking back the ACC. So, MF, your thoughts on the game of the week?
Agreed. I think it is going to be Clemson to win the game. It's not going to be an easy game, but being at home, having that crowd, it's going to be a very great matchup, and I do believe that they're going to win it. So I really got nothing more to add. Yeah, I got Clemson winning. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, we got 3 games left, and we have an 8 o'clock kickoff up next, as it will feature the number 24 Pittsburgh Panthers at home at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, hosting the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. This game will be over on the ACC network. And on that call will be West Durham, Roddy Jones, and Taylor Davis. Pittsburgh opening up as a 22-point favorite. And yeah, got to go with Pittsburgh. In Nebraska's first game after firing Scott Frost, the Cornhuskers lost by 35 to number 6 Oklahoma. In Arizona State's first game after firing Herm Edwards, the Sun Devils lost by 21 to number 13 Utah. This wasn't going to be a close game before Georgia Tech decided Monday to fire Jeff Collins, but now it might really get out of hand, like even more so than Pitt's 52-21 win in Atlanta last year. Pittsburgh wins, easy win, 41-7, Pitt all over G-Tech. MF?
Agreed. Pitt over G-Tech, easy. Bullet, go.
Yeah, I got Pittsburgh over Georgia Tech as well, so it's yours, Florio.
All right, we got a couple of late night kickoffs here, gentlemen, and then we'll call it a night here. We have a 10:30 and an 11. So, all right, let's get to the 10:30 kickoff. Pac-12 After Dark on ESPN. The now number 6 USC Trojans back at home at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles, hosting the Sun Devils of Arizona State. Game on ESPN. Dave Fleming, Rod Gilmore, Tiffany Blackman on the call. USC opening up as a 25.5-point favorite. MF, SC?
SC, easy call here. I just think that, like you said, after Herm Edwards got fired from Arizona State, they got blown out big. They're going to get blown out again. I think you are going to see the Sun Devils start to sink down the ladder in the Pac-12. SC, it looks like they're on a mission. Right now, they're holding one of the coveted 6 spots that would give them at least a guaranteed shot at New Year's 6. If they keep going, they might even have a shot at the top 4. That means college football playoff. They're in a very good spot, very good position. Nothing more to say. Bullock, it's yours.
Yeah, I got USC winning this one as well. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a long night for Arizona State. I mean, ever since it seemed like firing Herm Edwards only got worse. So, yeah, USC wins. It's yours, Florio.
When Arizona State beat USC last season, it rushed for 291 yards and 4 touchdowns. Last week against Utah, however, the Sun Devils finished with 20 carries for 6 yards. Yeesh. In 3 games against FBS opponents, Arizona State has rushed for 307 yards and has allowed 707. This team is broken and is now trying to find its way under an interim coach, and going on the road to face a very good and frustrated from last week's poor showing offense figures to be a disaster. USC all day, 45-13, USC all over Arizona State. Final game of the night, and it's an 11 o'clock kickoff, rare 11 o'clock kickoff, but it will be the number 13 Oregon Ducks at home at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon, hosting the Stanford Cardinal. This game will be over on FS1, Fox Sports 1, with Alex Faust and Petros Papadakis. Oregon opening up as a 17-point favorite. Michael Bullock, you lead off on the final game of the night. Number 13 Oregon at home against Stanford.
Yeah, Oregon being back at home, yeah, they should have no problem winning this one. So I got the Ducks winning this one, and that Eric Carrier is going to be very happy about it. So it's yours, Florio.
Agreed. It has been almost a full year since Stanford's last win against an FBS team. That victory came at home against Oregon October 2nd of last year. The Cardinals scored on the final play of regulation to force overtime and stunned the number 3 Duck. Stunned the then number 3 Ducks. The Stanford defense has gotten so bad, though, that it's almost impossible to imagine a repeat. The Cardinal has allowed an average of 42.3 points and almost 531 yards in its last 6 losses. That defense on the road against Bo Nix could be ugly, and it might even result in a 4th consecutive week with a Power 5 coach getting fired. Oregon wins 42-21. MF take it home.
Yeah, this is pretty easy. This is another easy game to call here. There's no doubt about it. When it comes to this one here, uh, there's really not much for me to talk about on this one. When I do believe that when this is all said and done, that I got Oregon winning the game over Stanford. So there's really nothing more to add on that one. So Anthony, it's yours.
All right, and with that, that will put the bow on this Week 5 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We'll be back with you tomorrow night, 11 p.m. over on MF's channel, Braves Fan 95, for another edition, for the return of the Cerebral Smack Talk. We've been off for the last couple of weeks with that because of commitments and other things beyond our control, but we will be back tomorrow night. We promise you. And it will be Friday Night SmackDown and AEW Rampage as always. And then Saturday, 10:30, right back here on the Tone 25, we have the week number 4 edition of NFL Saturday, TXN Sports World NFL Saturday. We'll recap the Dolphin-Bengal game, and we'll get into all the other big games, of course. Mahomes and Brady, Chiefs and Bucks. But a game that I think is even bigger than that. Bills and Ravens. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and those dynamo offenses. Let's go. Other great matchups. We'll get into all of that, including our first London game. We'll get into all that on Saturday. And then Monday, we got Ridiculously Raw right back here on the Tone 25 as we kick off Extreme Rules Week, as it'll be the go-home show from Monday Night Raw for Extreme Rules. And another special Tony's Take. I'm going to be previewing Impact Wrestling's biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory, which takes place next Friday night. So I'm going to give you the rundown of the card for Impact Wrestling's version of WrestleMania. And then Wednesday, we got Wednesday Night Mayhem. Good old MF, or I should say Wednesday Night Madness, rather. Good old MF Michael Fletcher will have that, as we will get into NXT, AEW Dynamite, and preview next Thursday night's football matchup with the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos. And then next week, Week 6 edition of College Football Thursday. And just looking at and we got another big slate next week. Florida State against NC State. But we already know what the headline is going to be. The Red River rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma. And we also got Michigan against Indiana, Tennessee against LSU, Arkansas against Mississippi State, Virginia Tech against Pittsburgh, Texas Tech against Oklahoma State, Utah against UCLA, Auburn and Georgia, Ohio State and Michigan State. Just to name a few of the big games, of course, and this is also the other big game, A&M and Alabama, Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban. Let's go. So, other great matchups, but those are the big ones for next week. So, we'll get into all that once again next week. So with that, so until tomorrow night for Cerebral Smack, for the return of the Cerebral Smack Talk, Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher and for Michael Bullock. And in spirit, of course, the First Lady, Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up, Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday. And until tomorrow night, for the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching the Week 5 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye.